Welcome to You're Not Doing It Wrong, You're Just Doing It Human. We're going to look at some things that we do inadvertently. So if you've ever felt like training should be working and it's just not, you're in the right place. I see it every day as a behavior consultant. Even in my own dog and dogs that I've worked with for a long time, we have certain setbacks. They develop these habits, and then I go, where did that come from? And it turns out I inadvertently taught them that. So we're going to go through some of those today. And I just want to tell you there's a culture in dog training, and I want to clear that up, that right now this is not about blaming yourself. We are human. We do human mistakes. We're trying to communicate human to dog. We're different species. So our natural instinctive ways that we interact with our dogs can accidentally teach the opposite of what we're trying to teach. So we just become more and more aware of what we're doing. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Heather Furby. I'm owner and lead behavior specialist at Casaluna Canines, co-founder of Paws and Success. So I'm a certified dog training professional, and I'm currently finishing up my graduate degree, Master's of Science in Human Canine Relations and Canine Cognition. So for some of you, this is going to be new information. Some of you have worked with us before, and so it's going to be a reminder, but I always go back to the basics because it reminds us where like one of those pillars may be missing. When our dogs are developing habits, we often have to go back to the basics and start saying, I missed this one little piece. So it's always a great time to see what we're doing in our daily work with our dog. Couple questions or housekeeping. If you post, I think there's a chat room, but if you have questions, post that in the Q&A. There should be some little buttons at the bottom. There's more people joining. Some of you are local, so you know how to get in touch with me if we're doing classes. But if you're not in the area, we are going to be talking a little bit about our Paws membership, but mostly just want to answer your questions. I want to let you know that there is can be a 30 to 60 second delay. So if you post questions, I may have to loop back to them or get them at the end. I don't always see them spot on. Just part of lovely internet and kind of doing these one-way presentations. So that's the housekeeping. Let's get going. I want to start with explaining dog law. Some of you know dog law. It's in Buddy Basics. What is it? If it works, I'll do it again. If it doesn't work, I won't. Really that simple. It's actually one of Thorndike's learning principles. It applies to human cognition too, and it basically says a behavior that gets a positive outcome is more likely to be repeated than a behavior that gets a negative outcome or one that's not positive. But we need to think about this always from the dog's perspective, not our human perspective. So what a dog does, a dog will repeat what gets reinforced, even if we don't mean to reinforce it. And that's what we're talking about today. So perfect example, dog comes in, jumps on you, and you scold them. You're like, no, bad dog, you get down. But we made eye contact. That's starting a conversation. We talked to our dog. That's a conversation. Maybe we pushed them down. We touched them. So we've got 3 senses involved already. And from your dog's point of view, guess what? Dog law, it worked. Got your attention, got some interaction. Even though we're pushing away, the dog's like, that's a really good scratch. Get that spot too. And so they think, hey, that worked. So that's what we mean by dog law, is from the dog's perspective, did it work? That's what a lot we're going to be repeating and talking about that today. And that's why also today we're not looking at just what your dog is doing, but why they're doing it. And that's something you can figure out no matter how beginning or advanced you are in training and working with your dog. You don't need to be a pro to see the patterns because you know your dog better than anyone else out there, better than any trainer or behaviorist or expert you're going to ever hire. So I want you to start really getting in tune with your dog. So we're going to look at the 5 most common human habits that accidentally teach our dogs what we don't want them to do. And we're going to talk about how to flip the script. So number 1, we often reward the tantrum. Your dog, as we started talking about this, your dog barks for attention, maybe dinner, maybe they need to go play, and you tell yourself, if you're like me, oh, that bark, it just grates at my nerves, right? It's I hate it. And it can be high pitched, it can be loud, it can be scary depending on your dog. And I want to go crazy. So I say, okay, just this once, I'm going to give in. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. I gave in. All it takes is once. And I'm not saying we have to be perfect, but usually what happens is this pattern of I don't just give in, we can start yelling at our dog. Stop it. No, Luna, get down. So now I'm in this conversation with my dog. And whatever it is, whether I gave in or yelled at my dog says, aha, it worked. And I got my human barking with me, right? Now we're up and playing. So quick flip of the script on that one is we want to start rewarding calm before the bark. And it's teaching them that quiet gets the goodies. This is, if you saw a blog post we sent out this week, this is about rewarding calm. It's the easiest thing to do and most overlooked because calm is easy to ignore, right? Our dog is finally doing what we want him to do and we go, oh, thank goodness. And it's not because we're lazy. It's because we've been working so hard to correct behavior and have all these really dysfunctional conversations with our dog that when they finally quiet down, we go, oh, fine. I get some peace and quiet. But that's when we actually have to reward our dog. So it's getting quiet gets the goodies, and noticing and reinforcing that calm behavior is the real training hack. That will change your world. I want to see if I can show you this video. We're going to see. If not, I'm going to post the link in the comments. But let's see if I share. This is called ninja feeding. And I'm going to see. Can we see that? Okay. So I'm going to play this. We'll see if the sound comes. I don't know if you can hear me over this, but watch her eyes at the beginning here. Yay! Okay. I love that. All right. So do you see, like the eyes just lit up. She didn't even have to raise her head. She doesn't have to get off the couch. She's just ninja feed, sleeping, being lazy Luna. Peanut butter arrives right in front of her, and it's like, ta-da! It's so exciting. So I'm hoping I'm coming back on. I'm getting weird things on my mic saying it's not on. So can't hear me, let me know. But so that's what the ninja feed, that's the ultimate reward calm. Now, obviously there's some steps we talk about in mastery classes that get you that calm, that because there's some dogs that are so worried about the environment that the moment you get up to try to ninja feed, they're up looking around. So we work on calm, but I just want to show you that's the ultimate of rewarding calm when it happens. Reward before the bark. So that's that number one thing we can do is instead of giving in or letting ourselves get the best of us, we just go, how can I continuously reward and ninja feed, before the bark starts happening? So see if you can catch that just one time this week. When your dog is already being calm, see if you can reward. What we're doing is conditioning that we want more of that behavior. We want more calm and more flopping around doing nothing, as opposed to constantly interacting with our dog when they're barking, and then when they're quiet, I ignore them. So we can see how our human instinct actually trains in the bark. And the other thing that we do is we end up, we'll get to that one. So the barking, try to catch the ninja feed. So start looking for all the calm moments and reward that calm. Second dance we do, this mistake, is I call it the pull, pull, no, you pull dance, the tango. It's called the loose leash or not loose leash walking tango. So many trainers teach loose leash walking of this magic trick And the trick is, you're walking, dog pulls, I stop, right? And then dog stops. And then I walk forward. When the dog pulls, I stop walking forward. Because the theory is that dog wants to go forward, I don't let it go forward, and therefore I'm not rewarding the forward pull. However, what we end up 99% of the time is teaching dog pulls, stop, almost sit, get to go, stop, sit, go, stop. It's called red light, green light. And the dog's making up the rules. Unfortunately, we teach that pattern of pull, stop, sit, pull, stop, pull, sit, stop. It's a dance and it makes everything miserable. So let's drop that. The other problem we do with loose leash is the standard of I'm running late, my dog's pulling, and just this once, right? Just this once, I gotta go because we have to get to class, and otherwise Heather's gonna make us buy cookies if we're late for class. So, I put my own agenda, and I just do it one time, right? Just once. So here's the thing. I'm gonna put all of my money on it that none of you do it just once. I don't do it just once. It becomes a habit that they pull, and just once I reward, and I've now reinforced that the pull means go forward. Or I've reinforced the pattern of pull, stop, sit, pull, stop, sit. Dogs are like, this is interesting. It's a game. It's not really fun, but it's working. I'm eventually getting where I need to go. And, maybe it's taking mom and dad's shoulder with me. So we want to flip that script very quickly. And first of all, it's being honest with ourselves. Have we done it just once? Or is it a pattern? So the real quick switch is we change the game. We just walk the other direction. I want you to start walking in zigs and zags, or get silly, start walking in circles. This is where leg weaves, 2 paws up, all the things that we learn in class or mastery, or if you're not local, when we get to our paws mastery classes, it's all the little tricks that we kind of go, how does this lead to loose leash walking? Just ditch that straight line. That's the best thing you can do. Dogs look straight ahead and say, I can get there faster, so just let me go ahead and get off this leash and I'll get there faster because you're kind of cramping my style. So we got to practice. So the first thing is, where do you practice? Indoors. Indoors is a great place. Most of us only use the leash when we hit the door and we're ready to go out and do something. The learning has started way back, probably about 15 minutes before we started cueing our dogs that we were going to go out. So start switching the game, put the leash on, start walking in circles or figure eights or around the house until your dog knows, leash is just right here by your side. This is just a boring game. It means nothing. It's not going to restrain me. It's not a trigger to get all wacky crazy. It's just, I walked around the house. Now I'm going to go out on the deck. I'm going to walk around the house there. Those of you that worked with us, or if you've been Buddy Basics, check out the environmental levels of distraction. Those are levels, remember, not how advanced you are, but the levels of what is the awareness, what's going on in the environment. So we ditch that straight line. We practice indoors, and we teach both ourselves and our dog that loose leash, fun, walking, it's a great time together, but only if you break that habit of pull, stop, turn, pull, stop. Okay. Let me check if there are questions. Q&A. Oh, I should get in the right place. Catherine said, so going back to when rewarding for calm behavior, does it matter if it's a high reward, like peanut butter, steak, or low behavior, like the, Charlie Bear, dry kibble? So that's a great question, and it's going to depend on your dog. I go, like the ninja feed I go for high value, because it's like, hey, you were asleep and a steak just showed up. That would be like breakfast in bed for me. If I was just sound asleep and breakfast appeared and all I had to do was sit up and eat and go away. So that's fine. If your dog is a foodie and loves kibble, then kibble is okay too. You can, come scatter feed. So it really depends. Some of your dogs are not going to be food motivated at all. And the praise, just coming up, deep massages, working those back hip muscles along the spine, just nice, calm. We're not trying to get them hyper, But if you can, we're touching our dog, and that's where it's a nice, calm massage, just kind of like going to the spa. So it's really going to depend on your dog what you reward for that. It doesn't always have to be the highest value in the house, unless you have a dog that's generally over the top. Then we want to say, we want to reward when they come down. There's some tricks to that. We'll talk about that in mastery a little bit more, because yeah, there are nuances. But basically, whatever your dog finds exciting, I mean, not exciting, lovely, then we can go ahead and do that. If steak gets them jacked up, then use kibble, something that's just a little bit less. So number 3 mistake, we call it the hello jump. We walk in the door, dog jumps up, and a lot of trainers teach you raise that knee, the aversive effect, and we try to push them back. Maybe you talk to them again, you're saying off, you're trying to stop them, and your dog's like, hey, human, this is a fun game. Again, I'm getting pet, just like when they were barking. Or the other human habit, because we've read it on the internet, and the internet is always full of great information, some of it not so true. We just ignore our dogs. So many trainers say that. Just ignore your dog. If the dog's jumping on me, or say my 86-year-old mother, there's no ignoring that's happening there. Because what happens is we ignore, we turn our back, and then we're like, oh, ow, oh, what are you doing back there? Are they down? Are they down? So that's not ignoring. But the trainer told you to do it, so you're trying really hard to ignore. And I will tell you, unless you are a mother of probably 5 kids, maybe a dad, and you can learn to tune out the world and absolutely ignore, the rest of us are sort of left in the dust on real ignoring. And I'm not making fun of that. I've seen mothers of multiple kids be the best at ignoring, but most of us can't handle it. So we do this fake ignore. What we end up doing is training in duration, just like we did with the bark. So we turned our back, and the dog continues to jump on us, and eventually we give in. And the next time we try our hardest to ignore longer, and then we give in. What we've taught is the dog goes, let's see, it's 3.5 minutes is how long I jump on them before I get the reward. I can do that. I can jump for 3.5. I can bark. So we end up training that duration because of our mistake of trying to really ignore when we haven't shut down our energy. We're not truly ignoring the dog. If you can truly ignore a dog, often they don't find the behavior rewarding, and that behavior is becomes extinct. But generally, ignoring doesn't work, especially for those of you that have puppies. Puppies are persistent. They will stay at it. So great, really interesting, Heather. I'm telling you all the stuff not to do. What do you want to do? We're going to flip that script. You guys know the answer here? Reward what you do want. And that's going to be 4 on the floor, I call it. So we're quick. Dog jumps up on us. Eventually, they have to hit 4 on the floor. That's the moment we reward. That's that marker word. Yes, yes, dog's on the floor. Yes. Another way we can do it is actually invite our dog to come up. Whoops, hit the mic. You're like, come on, come on. And so we get them to jump up. Then I got their paws off. I take their paws off. The moment they hit the 4 on the floor, paws hit the ground. Yes. And I can treat. So it's just that marker word. They're up, nothing, down on the ground, off, yes, reward. Now, again, be careful of the pattern. You don't want to just keep rewarding, jump up, off, because that becomes the game. But try it in easy, calm environments. Invite them up, and then teach them what off means. So reward for what we want. And if you've worked with us before, we've got our downloads, RMT, Reframe, Manage, Train. So we reframe, we reward for what we do want, and then we train for that. Also have some time that if your dog is a jumper, a lot of the puppies, collies, have some time that there's just no rules and the dog may get to jump on you or jump on others as kind of a fun, just get it out of their system, that it just doesn't become a pattern over and over. So that's the hello jump. So we're on to number 4 already, which is a huge one for so many of us. The mistake is saying sit and cueing sit when we really mean settle. So what do I mean by that? If your dog is overstimulated, coming to greet you, barking, everything. And we end up saying, sit, sit, no, sit, sit, sit. Guess what? They cannot access that cue. What I mean by not accessing the cue is that little amygdala, the emotional almond, tiny little chunk of the brain, has taken over. That drives the emotion. And their frontal cortex is not working. And so what we need to do is help them access thinking again, because when they calm down, cues can be accessed. But what we end up doing is saying sit, sit, sit. And what we're actually teaching our dog is that word doesn't mean anything. That word is not something interesting to listen for. They become frustrated. You become frustrated. Generally, one or both of you give up. And I see it in almost every class, every day. And so don't feel like this is pointing anybody specific out. People want to show me, or one of the instructors, hey, look, I taught my dog to sit, which they did. But they taught their dog to sit at home in a level 1 indoor familiar environment. And now they're trying to teach their dog or tell their dog to sit when there's squirrels, there's bunnies, there's other dogs. And so the dog has already overrode the cue, and they're trying to prove to me that they did something good. And meanwhile, their dog simply can't listen. So we end up, just ignoring the cue and teaching very quickly that my words and cues are all just pops and buzzes and whistles and nothing really needed to listen for. It's often why we get partnerships, or I'm very careful saying this because it can spark stuff. Our spouse or our kids or something, the person that has this louder voice is like, oh, the dog always listens to him or her because she's kind of loud and dominant. So I have to be loud and dominant. And I just go, oh, please, can we let that myth die? This is not about loud and dominance. This is about we are cueing our dog when they can't listen. And so the other person is often cueing the dog when they're not flip their lid and they go, see, that's how it's done. And then we have marriage and home discussions, and I become a family therapist. And it's okay because there are differences, but basically there's more to it. It's just that's often why a dog responds to one person and not the other, is because that person's actually telling them to do something when they're not in this over-aroused state. And then the one person that's struggling with the dog has taught them that this sit is not something to listen for, or my words aren't something to listen for, because I just keep saying them, pop, pop, blop, blop, and I don't follow through with anything. So how do we flip that? Teach a contextual cue. And now this is different because I'm going to say the cue is pause, just like our pause, settle, relax. A word that's fun to say, relax. My dad does that all the time to the dog. Relax. And you just watch the dogs just melt. The difference between that kind of cue and a cue that needs a specific action is that settle I don't have to contain myself. I don't have to sit in a vulnerable position and do something. I just have to contain and bring it down a notch or two. That arousal, bring the dimmer switch down. I don't care the action they're doing. I'm just saying, hey, settle, settle. So we do contextual cues. We use that all the time in service dogs. When we bring our dog out and they're getting a little too amped up because it's a new place, we go, hey, settle, let's settle. And if I've got to walk around a little bit, help the dog settle, great, now we've got that. Then they can calm down, and then our cues can come back online. So we teach contextual, settle, and start teaching patterns and rituals for calming and decompressing. We can do that when they come up. When you come home, if that's a really fun time to jump and hang out, try to start a ritual where maybe you come in and we walk in a figure 8 pattern, or we do some other break the pattern of jump, bark, attack. We got to set up what we want them to do. And then we say, hey, they've decompressed, cues come back online, and we're ready to roll. So that's number 4. So just for a second, we're going to pause for pause. I need, if anyone finds those pause, like whatever little costume, I started looking for them. I'm going to be totally honest on this one. I started looking and I went down the rabbit hole. I did not know how many cosplay types of sites there are and how many adult costume dog wearers there are. So I got a little scared, but if you find pause, tell me, send me links. So my pause here is, do you see a pattern of what's happening with these? These are not mistakes that come from laziness or bad intentions or aversive training. They come from acting human. We are primates. We're acting in the moment. Dogs, canines have a whole different way of operating. So we end up reinforcing the things that we're trying to break. So here's your challenge. Right now, think of one behavior that your dog does that you're not in love with. Try not to make it a string of behaviors. So it's not like, oh, when we get in the car and we're driving down the road and he's barking at this. Try to think of it just one thing. Like if I could open the door, or when my spouse comes home, or the dog goes a little crazy, or when the kid is getting out of the tub, the dog tends to jump on the child a little bit too much. So think of one behavior that you don't love. And then you ask yourself, what is my dog getting from me or the environment when they do this? So think of that one thing. What is my dog getting from me or the environment when they do this? That's the reward. Like, why is it working? And if you can, feel free to post any of this in the chat if you're brave enough. I know it can feel vulnerable because none of us, we want to be like, oh, this is so silly. I should be able to get this. But this is really complex. Because the third question you're going to ask yourself, so you're asking, what is the behavior? What is the dog getting from me or the environment? And then third is, what could I reinforce instead? Here's my real life example. Luna has started a new habit, which is we don't love. Anytime we sit down for dinner at the table. Now, some of you know my parents moved in, so we have more dinner time kinds of things. So we changed up the pattern on her, and we forgot to inform her of the new rules. So as soon as we sit down for dinner, she starts barking. And she's barking. It gets one of the family members to react. Does she need to go out? Does she need to go? Oh, I'll go up and see if she needs to go out. Nope, she's lying on the couch. She doesn't need to go out. She's just yelling. Somebody else, usually me, calls her over, says you got to settle down here, but she's getting rewarded for that. And then we're annoyed with each other because we're reacting differently, and everybody's like, oh, just stop. We're trying to have a conversation, and you just have this crazy barking. And again, ignoring doesn't work. So I'd have to say, well, what could I reinforce instead? Aha, she's got a place very close to the kitchen table, one of her little beds and spots in the house where she waits for her food. So let's start reinforcing that. Tell her to go to her bed and just start reinforcing that during dinner before the bark starts, before all the drama begins. Reinforce, hey, that's the behavior we like. That's what gets you the steak. Now, some of you might have different setups, like you don't want your dog by the table. So don't take this as you have to feed your dog by the table. That's not what I'm saying. Work for me, it's, well, that I could reinforce instead because she's not a big beggar. She can stay on her spot. We can reinforce being on your bed, being calm during dinner, rather than letting her self-entertain. So ask yourself that challenge of what's the one behavior? What do you think the reward is for the dog? And then what could we reinforce instead? So let's go on mistake number 5. Oh, let me pause. Hold on, I got to check for questions. Let's see. Stacy is asking, so the biting is getting better. Great. I know that's such a tough one, Stacy. I understand that. And when I get down on the ground with her, it happens more. So when it does, I stand up and remove myself. Perfect. So then the next part, Stacy, would be, what would you reinforce instead? So we get down on the floor, she starts biting. What could we reinforce before that happens? And that can be really tricky, but just take a moment to think about that. I can give some suggestions later. Sharon talks about leash pulling in a new environment. Yep, takes Leia about 15 minutes to adjust. I totally know that one. So she gets to sniff and get to know the environment, and you can reinforce calm, walking, settle. You absolutely can. And then rehearse as well. Add to that rehearsal piece of, you have no agenda. Try to go somewhere when you don't actually have to get somewhere. So we have more time to sniff, to walk, to settle. And then get back in the car and go home. Go out again. You have 5 minutes to sit and then go home, so that we don't keep reinforcing a 15-minute settle period. We can kind of shorten it where it's like, hey, we're only out here for 1 minute, and then we're jumping back in the car. This is where we have to let go of our thing of like, oh, but I'm punishing the dog. I'm tricking my dog. No, you're teaching your dog there's different rules. It's not that we're tricking our dog like, you want this piece of food, can't have it. Want the piece of food, can't have it. That's mean. This is, hey, we're going out and changing the rules, saying, hey, you got about 2 minutes to settle. Oop, it didn't happen. Then we're going home. And that's how we could start reinforcing shorter periods of settling. And let's see, last one. Catherine says, Dawson goes to the sliding door and pause it to go outside, even though we have a doggy. The refusal of the doggy door. Oh, Dawson. So what does he get out of it? Yeah, same time, not having to walk down the hall. That is true. He's probably a very efficient dog. I have met Dawson. But the other side then is he's also learned he doesn't have to, because he's going to paw at the door. And I'm guessing that he's learned duration, that if I just bark and try this a little bit more, eventually mom or dad's going to get up and open that door. If it never happened, he'd learn to go down and around. But it's much more efficient, and dogs are efficient, to go out the door. So then we've got to start thinking, well, what could we reinforce instead? And, that can be training him to get down to that door, making it fun that, we play hide and seek in and out of the doggy door. So it becomes, oh, that's how I enter and exit the house. That's awesome, because this glass door rarely opens when I bark. Yes, when the dog barks. But that said we've got to be up on timing so that we don't reinforce duration. And then actually all of those are awesome, because they lead to our fifth point, which is the biggest mistake that humans make, which is we just skip the learning altogether. We think, oh, we've got it. My dog knows it, so we're done. And it's a huge, huge, huge one with dog owners, and especially with advanced dog owners, because we tend to train only when there's a problem. And the doorbell rings, guest walks in, the leash goes on, chaos begins. Guess what's happening? Not learning. No learning is happening during that time. So that's when reactions take over, as opposed to actual learning. How do we flip that? It's not about just going to class. I'm not selling you something here. It really is about setting up calm practice sessions. If you've been in Buddy Basics, download the levels of environment. If you haven't, we'll talk about how to access Buddy Basics in a minute. But those levels of environment. Level 1, indoors, no distraction. Level 2, maybe outdoors, no distractions. Level 3, outdoors, distractions in a distance. Level 4, outdoor, maybe a new environment, distractions a little closer. And then level 5 is real world environment distractions. Now let's look at ourselves. If you're human, which I think you are, because I'm not sure how many dogs registered for this, we tend to work with our dogs in level 1, and then we go to level 5. We work with our dogs in 1, maybe 2 areas of level 1, and then we jump to a new level 4. And we forget that each level can have 2 or 3 spots, and we slowly let our dogs lead the pace. So if I get out of the car and my dog's pulling, they're telling me right there, I don't need any other information. I don't have the skills to handle this environment right now. So we got to go, well, what skills do you need? And that's what I'm talking about. We skip the learning, is that we want to set up these calm practice sessions, build the skills before you need them. So that's what we call train for a situation, not in the situation. And that's exactly what we do inside Pause, which is this community, and our Casa Linda Canines Playground adventure for people that have been part of that. It's building real world skills with no pressure, whole lot of fun, and skill building sessions. So it's basically looking at, if I ask you, let me think of some examples here. Like if you learned to throw a baseball, are you ready to play the game? I can throw the baseball there. Does coach say, yep, let's go in, probably ready for major leagues at this point? Or on the other side, if I know how to cut a sewing pattern, and even if I figure out, if you've ever sewed, figured out all the little intricacies and all the symbols and everything. I cut the pattern perfect. Does that mean I'm ready to make a wedding dress that's going to fit perfectly with all the sequins and little bodice? It's like, probably not. So it's asking yourself, do you always behave exactly how you're supposed to in all situations? Yeah, no, neither does your dog. So, and if any of you answered yes to that, I really want the secret. But we all behave differently in certain situations. We get riled. We need to understand. We need to learn in process. Just because I learned to throw the ball, there's a lot more to learning baseball before I can play a game. I didn't even say what kind of ball. Maybe it was a football and I played the wrong game. If I cut a sewing pattern, there's so much more to understanding the intricacies of sewing and getting something to fit than just knowing the first step. But we do that with our dogs all the time. We skip the learning and we go from 0 to 10, and then we expect our dog to come with us. And then usually what I hear is, yeah, maybe I've done that, but I really want to, I had to just bring my dog out on the trail. I'm like, well, did you? It's generally saying we skipped the learning, we did too much too soon, and we're so scared to fail as humans that we need to take a step back. In 20 years that I've been working with dogs, I have never, ever, 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 I can say this, I'm trying to think like, oh, somebody could call me a liar. I've never seen anyone go too slow. I've never seen somebody that I'm like, you really gotta pick up the pace here and get your dog exposed to stuff. No experience is better than a bad experience, because everything that we say is a bad experience, the dog probably got really rewarded or had some over-the-top experience where it's going to take them a while to relax from it. So all of this about dogs need rehearsal, not just correction, in order to succeed. And that's actually where Buddy Basics comes in. So if you have Buddy Basics, I want you to go back and look at it. If you don't, I can send you the link to get over there. It's actually in Circle. You'll see it on the left-hand side menu. And you've just seen how easy it is to accidentally reinforce the wrong thing through the 5 mistakes of rewarding the tantrum. I'm going to read them all here as I wrote them down. The pull, pull, no you pull dance, the loose leash tango. The hello jump, where we've reinforced jumping for longer periods. Number 4, sit when you mean settle. So we want to teach relaxing cues or settling cues that aren't a specific behavior. And then the 3rd is that we skip the learning. So when we accidentally reinforce the wrong things, we look back to the basics. Our course Buddy Basics, we shift the focus from fixing your dog to learning the skills that help you prevent these unwanted behaviors before they start. And it's a framework that we're trying to make it that it actually fits real life. So those foundational skills, we want to come back to bonding, awareness, synchronizing, instructing, coaching, succeeding. So we look through each one of those 6 and we go through step by step. And somewhere, usually when there is a behavior we don't like, if we just look back and go, first, have I bonded with my dog? Is there any trust going on here? Or am I leading my dog, into the harm's way and they know it, so they're not going to listen? Am I aware of the environment? Am I synchronizing my energy, emotions, movements? Am I instructing my dog in a way that they can understand? Am I coaching? Am I making learning fun? Or have I made learning a very pressure game that dogs are like, this is not really interesting because I'm always screwing up around this person, so I don't really like learning. And then am I celebrating the successes? So that's where we say it's not just about teaching cues. It's really about building that trust, timing, and teamwork. And it's what we're about is awareness training for humans. So many dog trainers and programs actually focus on teaching the dog what to do. And what we're trying to do is flip that script and help you as humans see how your energy and timing and maybe your reinforcement patterns are shaping your dog's behavior, whether or not you realize it. So that's what we're trying to bring the awareness to us, because it's so much more effective when you have this lens. I don't care what kind of training you're doing, if it's sport, if it's gun dogs, if you're doing service dog, if you just have your pet dog, once you have this lens of the basics framework, you can really go to any trainer out there and start saying, aha, what part of the pillar of success am I missing? And so we build this real people, real dogs, The lessons that we try to teach across the board, whether it's in the Pause Mastery or Buddy Basics, are going to be short and practical, really easy to apply, even if your dog is a little extra. And I know maybe it's not your dog. It's that person down the road, their extra dog. It's for them too. And we really talk about getting the structure, the insight, and tools to finally feel confident about your dog's progress. So we're not just doing hope and pray methods or this outdated one-size-fits-all training. We really customize everything with Buddy Basics and inside the Pause community. So that's what we have today. I'm going to come back and say, are there... Thank you, Alan, for the left-handed football joke. If any of you are Packers fans, you'll understand where that comes from. That what we are looking at is not about perfection, just progress. So if you have any questions, feel free. I'm going to post that Ninja Feed video in the comment section of this event right now. I think it went live. So not in this chat, but over in the actual Circle community. If you haven't taken Buddy Basics, you're going to see in the left-hand side of this Pause community, there's a little spot for Buddy Basics. It'll explain what you've got, and you can join Buddy Basics. That is actually the foundation and the gateway into what we're going to launch in our Pause Mastery program, where we take all this and dive just even a little deeper and get you more and more practical skills. And I just want you to think back to how maybe some of these mistakes of trying to ignore or doing start-stop or yelling with your dog, trying to command your dog when they can't access cues, or perhaps just skipping all the training, where in there might there be a breakdown that reinforced behaviors that are driving you nuts with your dog. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to show up today and for caring enough about your dog. I just want to remind you, you're not doing it wrong. You're just doing it human. And now maybe you can do it a little differently. So reach out, call, email, let me know what you want more of. This is part of our free foundation member for the Pause community. We'll be doing these once a month when we release our mastery. We've got challenges and live Q&As, smaller groups where we can really dive into behavior issues that pertain specifically to your dog, and get you going in the right direction. So until then, I don't see any other comments. So until then, remain curious, stay connected, be calm, confident, all of those. Again, Heather, Casa Luna Canines, we will see you over in the membership.